Hello, today I want to upload a video to answer back a couple of discussion questions regarding cued speech and the Illinois Institute. I just kind of want to change the philosophy about it. My good friend named Kevin Smith, he graduated from the Illinois Institute and he signs a lot. And he talked about how the Institute is getting smaller, but they use cued speech there. Cued speech is used all throughout the school, but after schools, in people's dorm room, of course they use sign, and so most kids wanted to transfer out. With discussing different topics, I tend to see that people miss one of the most important things, actually two of the most important things. The first one, that is always the same, is the fact that hearing people tend to decide for the deaf people. They decide what they do, how they do it, make all the decisions for them ever since the beginning of time. And that bothers me a lot. Now my friend Kevin, I asked him how he felt about it and how he felt if a white person decided to make decisions for everyone in America. Of course that would make you upset. That whole situation makes you upset. What if we decided to make decisions for all of Asia or for Jewish people and we decided for them? It's the same kind of concept regarding deaf people. The Illinois Institute, they have hearing people who decide how to communicate, how the deaf people should communicate, and once they make that decision, it's final. Now, cued speech, the success rate of it is very, very small. And we as deaf people know that signing has always been successful. It's very clear, and that there hasn't been any problems, but hearing people tend to see a problem with it and suppress it. The second point that I want to make is that it's important to emphasize that every language has two separate groups, whether it's Spanish, English, ASL, or Russian. They have two different structures of groups, and many people don't realize that. In language, like ASL for example, ASL has two branches, school and socializing. English is the same. They have school language and they have the social language. Now, the school language means that they're taught in a classroom. They learn how to structure words, they know the rules of grammar, and they know how to put pieces together like that. But outside of the classroom, it's a lot different. Whether people are texting in the dorms, communicating, but outside the classroom, there's no rules. It's the same with English. You may sit and you try to learn all the structures of the language. You learn nouns and verbs and how to say sentences and everything like that. But once you go outside and you're socializing, you forget about all that stuff. You use your Facebook, your text messages, all those different kind of things that are not formal. And most people will express that in different ways. Now, with ASL, the socialization of ASL is easy. People just sign, communicate, say different things. Now for school ASL, everything has a structure. People aren't ready for the outside world. They're just learning what people are told. They're taught the structures of how to say their name. They're taught the rules. Now, if you look at someone signing like a school ASL, there's rules, and many people don't realize that. And not everything that they sign is wrong, but most teachers will say that they are. It's as simple as saying, my name is Joey, my last name is Bear. I have 4 cars. I have 3 children. All of that together is just very confusing for deaf people because following those rules aren't always what is needed. And there's a lot of things like numbers, for example. All the ways that people are taught how to use numbers, depending on how your hand is, where it's facing, and all the different structures of it. And they have rules to describe it all, and they give it to them depending on what it is. Whether you're describing your phone number, your house number, how many things you have. Everything like that together is just so confusing. And it's hard to understand. There's so many different parts of it. And together, it just makes it very confusing. So how come there are rules for it? And with another set of rules, people use expressions. Now, most hearing people don't use expressions when they're signing, but it's so important to use facial expressions when using ASL. It helps stories be creative, and it helps to express the point that is coming across. Instead of just structuring it word by word, you're expressing exactly what you want to. Now, if I'm teaching a student and they see my skill level, my style of signing, and other people have the opportunity to see it, and they practice visualizing, they practice with the visualization of what I'm doing, it's so much different than using a language that is just taught in school. So, my point is the problem is that people are lousy when teaching it, and they decide whether they should use cued speech, SEE, and all of that isn't needed. And instead of just asking deaf people what's best for them, and using ASL just for school purposes, learning structure, they don't ask that. They just do what they want. My mom and dad, for example, they grew up oral. They had to learn how to speak, and ASL wasn't always what was allowed to be used. If anything, they said that it was a crutch. My concept of it that I want to try to discuss about is more people need to get rid of the school ASL. Whether you have a deaf family, you have deaf children, you need to know more, know less of the formal, and help with the understanding. Most people just think that it's easy to switch from ASL to English and go back and forth. And cued speech itself is English. It is part of the English language as well as SEE. And it's not a language itself. Some people may use cued speech and SEE, and that's fine, but everyone knows, every deaf person knows that ASL is much more helpful than that. And I wish before that people understood this concept. My friend Kevin, he's lucky because he grew up going to institutes, and he got to express how he felt, and now he expresses it through vlogs and however, and he got to choose what he preferred. And a lot of kids don't. And there's a lot of points that are missed about this, about language, and the different supporting concepts of each one. It's important to set aside and just support whatever the institutes, and to support whatever deaf people want to do, and over time, things will change. It might be a long time, but people don't realize that ASL is very unique, and it's very ASL is above all that. It uses structure and language and everything else instead of just using it. And that's what I have to say about that. Thank you for watching.